Forget the swing states. Trump digs into 4 new battleground states. Can he flip this Democrat territory? We'll give you which ones they are. Got a whole lot of great stuff on where the election is at. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. I'm Doug TenNapel. We're all in exile. We're all pretty happy. There's a whole lot, always something to be thankful for. Let's watch.
That we don't remember that her husband, Bill, accepted that DNC nomination at Madison Square Garden in 1992. So was he a Nazi? Were all of his supporters Nazis?
I would say that Hillary Clinton coming out and saying this shows that Kamala Harris is desperate. She knows she's going to lose so long as Trump supporters vote and vote as early as possible.
Did you vote yet? Vote early. That's what I'm here to say. Get on it, guys. Country's at stake. What is he talking about with the Madison Square Garden? That's the news. Is just all the left is going off on this comedian that made a joke about Puerto Rico. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it sticks. Here's the national Real Clear Politics average. Trump just ticked up to 0.2. What happens is Rasmussen went from Kamala +1, then she went to 0, and then Trump to +1. It's enough where you see these top polls, they're either tied or Trump is eking out and gaining ground. So that's where the polls are at today. I want to look at that Atlas Intel down at the bottom that has Trump +3. And that Atlas one is notoriously leftist. That's the quick update on that.
Here's the problem. Kamala Harris has known for 4 years that Joe Biden is not mentally fit to lead this country. And not only has she covered that up, she's lied about it. That is disqualifying.
That's the bottom line, I think, of this whole campaign. Kamala Harris was very unpopular when Democrats told you the truth. Back when they told you what they really think. She's unpopular to America. Now the only question is, who believes what gaslighting? If you're on the right, you're already on board with Trump. See, that's the thing is, Trump has a legit base that loves him that I don't believe Kamala Harris has.
There are 4 states that if you talk to people in Trump world outside the 7, they would say we have a chance to win. One would be New Mexico, where I last Monday said Trump would go to Albuquerque, and now he is.
Okay, so we covered that where Mark Halperin, because remember, he leans more Democrat. He's more centrist. He is not a MAGA, go, go, go. Neither is Sean Spicer, his guest, and neither are his other Democrat guests. So I like pulling from them because when they tell you something, you can believe it. Mark Halperin said if Trump does an event in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico is in play. And lo and behold, Trump has an event in Albuquerque. Now, because they don't have that much time left. So this is valuable time because he could have gone in and say shored up Michigan a little more or shored up Pennsylvania a little more if he's worried about them going to Nevada. And instead he's going to spend his valuable time in New Mexico. What's the other state? There's 4 of them in total. That's the first one.
One is Virginia, where Sean lives, where Trump is going on Saturday.
Okay, Trump is taking a trip to Virginia on Saturday, Glenn Youngkin country. And so again, if he breaks into Virginia and flips that state, that also is huge. I believe, and a whole lot of people have been predicting that he takes Virginia. And the new one that I keep hearing this week is New Hampshire, which we'll get to. I don't want to blow it, but we'll get to it.
One is Minnesota, that since George Bush in 2000, the Republicans have had this fantasy that they're going to win Minnesota.
And he's not optimistic about that one, that we're going to win that one. But Minnesota cold. Tim Waltz country. Can Trump take Minnesota? Does he do an event there? Bush took it in the year 2000. So it's possible. And the last one.
And one is the state where Michael Graham lives. And Michael Graham joins us now with the results of a new poll, which countered most polling, including other recent polls, some other recent polls, shows New Hampshire not only close, but Michael actually has. Who's leading in your poll, Michael?
Believe it or not, in a state that Democrats have carried 7 of the last 8 times, the Granite State, Donald Trump has a massive 50.2 to 49.8 lead.
So it's within the margin of error, but for that to happen in New Hampshire, that Trump is leading in a New Hampshire poll is a pretty big deal. There's only 3 cities in New Hampshire, these kind of East Coast where Republicans just can't gain any ground. There's only 3 cities there, but all the rural areas are going to, of course, be bury the needle for Trump. The question is, can he do enough damage in those 3 cities? The other problem is that they have a Republican versus Democrat, a Senate seat up that they're going for, and the female Republican is kind of non-Trumpy up there to win. and she's ahead. So they don't want to mess with that by bringing Trump into the state. It can actually, Sean Spicer says, it could actually wake the sleeping dragon, that is the Democrat Party, could start spending money against him in New Hampshire, and it could have a backfiring effect. So we're going to try and sneak in and take New Hampshire.
So you and I have been in colloquy for weeks, ever since Kamala
Yes.
Harris did an event in New Hampshire, and the Harris campaign told me absolutely has nothing to do with worry about whether she'll win New Hampshire.
And the opposite is true. Not only that Trump is going into blue territory, but when Kamala has to go back and reinforce blue territory. So they put Biden in New Hampshire, and they swore up and down that it wasn't because they were worried about New Hampshire.
Then Joe Biden went to New Hampshire last week. Again, nothing to do with that.
So that's Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, both having to take trips into New Hampshire recently. It's because their internal polls are telling them that Trump is doing better than they thought. Probably among independents, where there's a huge amount of independents in New Hampshire.
The big one is Kamala Harris is failing the audition for the job. She's just failing it. And the other one is, I think you guys have picked up on these subterranean issues that are having effects that people aren't looking at, like these fight over trans issues, guys and girls sports. New Hampshire is kind of ground zero for that. We've had a couple of high profile cases. There's a lawsuit, there's a new law.
So because of those hot topics, those are social issues now, they happen to cut against the Democrat Party because they took their position on men and women's sports and all that stuff. I don't want to even get into specifics on it. I don't really have to. But the point is that social issues, remember it was Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks who said Kamala Harris will lose if she runs on social issues, because that's where they're losing it with Americans. And she hasn't articulated any issues, but we know what the Democrat Party thinks of those social issues, and they're not doing well in New Hampshire. That is just because they're independent, just because they're traditionally Democrat, doesn't mean they're okay with men and women's sports and the trans issue, which is all about parental rights about their kids.
So this is two tweets from some financial analyst. I don't really know who he is, but he says that the story that's going to would kill Trump is that the Butler assassination was a hoax, and that the media is under pressure not to report it. That's going to be the story that changes all this.
This is a left-wing conspiracy, truly stupid, where they're saying he went after a kid was another rumor they were going to try and say about Trump. But now they're going for the big taco, the big whopper. The Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt was a hoax. The Democrats are going to run with that. There ain't a paper in the world that wants to commit suicide by running that lie.
Because, some of these trend lines and Senate candidates, John Fetterman's interview over the weekend did not help the cause. So does she have passion, and does the party stick together?
I'm only bringing that up because we did a piece on John Fetterman, that interview already, where he talks about Pennsylvania enthusiasm for Trump, and that Elon Musk is a very impressive figure. And this is a Democrat that said, does the Democrat coalition stay together? Because they're starting to attack each other.
I hate to say this because it is not a joking matter, but if somebody were to print that Butler was a hoax, I think that would ricochet and help Trump. They push it, I guarantee you that ends up helping Trump.
So I'm just putting this out there so that if they do run this article, you guys have fair warning just to dismiss it. It's automatically false. It's a dumb move. I don't know. That depends on how desperate they are. If they run that article, that's a Hail Mary. They know they're losing. And that one isn't going to work either.
I don't have any hate in my heart. I don't have any hate against Christians or white people or poor people, or I don't have people who want to live promote heterosexual values or Christian values. I don't have any problem with that. We're just concerned about people on the margin, and we want to understand their experiences and not make their lives terrible. It's sad for me that Democrats have such a hard time explaining why we support trans rights. That's painful to me, that in our media environment, or they're not confident enough to be able to explain why it's a good thing to help people on the margins. That makes me sad. But that explains why the mainstream media is so, quote, all in for Harris, because Trump is post-truth, really.
I wanted to give you a voice from the other side and to have you hear the hurt in his voice, because he just doesn't understand. He's furious with the media and furious that the Democrats can't. This is a Democrat. He's canvassing right now for the Democrats, going door to door, I believe in Philadelphia, in mostly Black communities. He said a couple of very interesting things, but there's hurt in his voice that the Democrats can't articulate that message. They're too busy. They just go straight to Trump is hate and Republicans are hate. And that doesn't tell the story. Just like he's pro-trans and he's talking about parents and children, that doesn't cover the story. I care about people on the margins. So when you hear it in their own words, I think it always sounds better. And maybe it's just that the media doesn't have the patience to break out super complicated issues like this. But what he's saying is still that the Democrats are the ones that can't articulate their message. That's coming from a Democrat.
One thing I'll just know, we haven't talked about, it was just another story of another Democratic outside group with access to a lot of research pleading in public to get off this anti-Trump message.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes two now in the last week that have leaked to the New York Times. Our research shows this does not work.
That's Dan Turrentine. He's a Democrat member of this group, this host group. And he's saying that they keep getting internal calls from Democrats saying, stop doing this anti-Trump Nazi hatred stuff. It's not working. We're losing because of it. Try something else.
This largely issues-focused messaging from Trump's 2024 campaign operation is one of the reasons why this race is so competitive. A professional campaign appeals to a multiracial coalition focusing on issues where Trump polls better than Harris: immigration, the economy. And we saw some evidence of a political realignment with the very fact that yesterday Trump was able to fill the 20,000 or so seats at Madison Square Garden in Manhattan for his campaign rally. It's a feat that likely no other Republican presidential candidate would have been able to pull off, not in the modern era.
Could a Republican besides Trump fill Madison Square Gardens? I was early okay with Ron DeSantis. I can't imagine Ron DeSantis filling Madison Square Garden. This is the kind of thing where candidates early on, Republicans are going anyone but Trump. I'm talking about the Rhino Republicans up in Washington, D.C., and kind of the more traditional people that are just kind of stuck in the past, can't quite catch up quick enough. There's a whole lot of us, that are that way. Jake Tapper is saying, only Trump could do this. And he's trying to be a little more sober. I think he came out of his 8-month drunken binge to have a moment of clarity. I'm Doug, in exile.